Good evening, everybody. Monday morning quarterback, episode 77. Hope you've all had a fantastic start to your week. I don't have my fancy background tonight. It came off the wall over the weekend, so needed to change it up anyway. So we're plain white tonight. But we have an exciting show planned. Been waiting patiently, a lot of you I know, for this latest PitLogic release. It was a massive undertaking. We basically doubled the features that the app had, and so it took a long time to get all that done and refined and working well. So tonight we're going to show you those features, and we'll get Kevin Crum, the developer of PitLogic, we'll get him on the line to help me kind of go through all the new stuff and answer questions. And that we'll kind of start the program with that. We'll walk you through those new features. So for anybody who's a PitLogic user, you'll see what all these new features are and the new tabs when you download the update. And for people that are potentially not using it or on the fence, you'll get a quick tutorial on all the features that PitLogic has to offer. And then we'll come back and answer all of your questions as we do every week. So racing questions, PitLogic questions, setup questions, we're here to answer those for you every Monday night. And we certainly appreciate if you like and share our videos. That helps us kind of cast a larger net and let more people find out about CSI and all the things we're doing here. So without further ado, we will get Kevin on the line here and see what he has to add to the features. I'm the face, Kevin's the voice, but he's the man that did all the heavy lifting on this. So if I could get my phone to work.
Hello.
Kevin, you are live on Monday Morning Quarterback. Thank you for joining us.
You bet. Thanks, Garrett.
So Kevin, as I said, is the man behind PitLogic, and for those of you who've never met Kevin, him and his son Chance race out in the Northwest. They've been customers of CSI for a super long time, and he had been working previously on an app kind of like this, so I'd been doing the same, but I didn't have anything nearly as cool as what PitLogic is, and so we partnered up last summer and worked really hard to get this app that both of us had kind of a vision for together. And we released it around PRI time last year, and we've got a bunch of users on the platform, and we've taken kind of the most requested features that people would like added, and then what Kevin and I thought were most important. And Kevin's worked his tail off to get this massive update done, which, as I stated earlier, has probably doubled the features in the app. So what would you like to add to that, Kevin, before we dive into it?
Well, I think you give me too much credit. It's really the product of a bunch of us looking at it together. And I think that's what's made it worked out really well, is a bunch of racers trying to come up with stuff to help racers. And I'm pretty happy with how it turned out.
Awesome. Well, we will cut on over. You're not going to see my pretty face here for a moment. And I'm going to show you what the new home screen on PitLogic looks like. So the first thing you'll notice is there is 6 buttons now instead of 3, and I'm going to walk you through kind of the new features. If anybody's watching that wants to see a feature that was there before, I can go back and show that, but I'd assume most of you want to see the new features. So the first thing we'll start with, the first button you're going to see is Setups, and as I click on Setups, you'll see I got a bunch of setups that we've uploaded to our website. Again, you can download kind of our race-proven setups, and that comes with the basic package. Those codes are on csishocks.com. But if I click on quarter midget setup here, not a ton has changed here, but what Kevin has done is a couple things. He's cleaned up the bottom area. It's a little hard to see with this mirroring app I'm using, but now on the bottom you have setups, notes. I don't have any notes on this particular setup, and parts. And I'll get into parts a little bit later, But basically, you can attach any part you create to a setup, and that's how it's going to log laps and events you have on those parts. So we'll touch on parts a little bit later. Another cool feature is track conditions. You can add any track condition you want for the pavement guys. So we could say cool low grip, and then the next time we would go to add a track condition, that would be the first option I would have, and then we have all the predefined dirt ones there as well. With the parts that we'll get to later, that's going to drag some more features into the setup for you, and so you don't have to enter quite so many things. Other than that, I think the setup is very similar, and again, you can download whatever setup template you want from our menu. So we've got quarter midgets, sprint cars, micros, wing sprint cars, all of that. Am I missing anything there on setups, Kevin, that you can think of?
I don't think so. We did do just a little bit of reformatting of the PDF that's made from the setups.
Yeah, I can show that. So there's the PDF. You can see that now on the screen. So yeah, the PDF now shows notes, and I believe it will show what session it is.
Yep.
So yeah, so those are good features.
And if you're on a network with a networked printer on either the Android or the iOS, you should be able to, from here, send that to a printer as well.
Awesome. So going back to the main screen, shocks is pretty much untouched. That was a feature that worked really well, and we didn't make any changes to that at this point. The next one would be gears. And the big change on gears is now you have the ability to select a gear that you own or you have in your trailer, which you couldn't do that before. So if you long hold on any gear, now it's going to ask you, do you have a 28 axle gear? Or if you accidentally long held on it, you can say, no, I don't have that, or just never mind. Then when you go to sort gears on the RPM function, well, I'll tell it I have that gear so you can see that. So now it's going to highlight the 28 axle gear anytime it's found on this gear chart. If it's midget or sprint car, you would highlight a gear set, or on a micro or a quarter midget, you can highlight an engine or an axle gear that you potentially have. So then when you sort gears, if you said you had a 3024 on and you were turning 5500 and you want to turn 6000, now it's going to tell you the new gear you want, and you'll be able to find the closest ratio to that with a 28, which looks to be a 28 engine gear and a 28 axle, because we told it we had a 28 axle gear in our trailer. So that's a cool new feature for the gears. You can identify what gears you have, and then when you're doing your gear ratio selections, it's easy for you to see, because there's no sense in the app telling you to put this gear in if you don't actually have that gear. Did I miss anything there?
The only thing I would add there is if you're tracking gear sets for the midgets or sprint cars, yep, when you mark which gears you have, you can mark if they're standard gears or lightweight, and they show up in different colors. So as you look through the chart, you can tell which ones are your standard gears and which ones are your lightweight gears.
Correct. So I was showing that. Long hold on a gear set in the midget. Now it'll say have the set, or have the set in lightweight, or don't have. And the lightweight is, I believe, like a brownish color, and the standard is a black. So, yeah, so that's a cool feature. You can tell it what type of gear set you have. The next thing on the home screen would be checklists. And so here, this was a feature a lot of people wanted. I'll click on the 600 micro one. Again, just like the setups, we have some predefined templates we've made. So this is kind of our weekly checklist for a 600 micro guy, what would need to be done to the car. And you can long hold on any of those items, and it'll select it and check it off your list that it's done. So I'm simply long holding on these, and you can see it's checking it off. If I go down to the little 3 dots in the lower left, I can turn on the edit mode, and then I can long hold on any item. And so if that's an item I didn't want on there, I can remove it just from this list or from the template. Also, if I go back to those three dots, I can add a new item to the list. So easily I can add, if there's one more step into this process that Kevin and I didn't think of, or we don't do, that you want to do and you want to be on your checklist, you can easily add it to your checklist. And again, these are easily printable from a PDF, and you can see the ones we've checked off are marked off on the PDF. So if you like to keep a notebook of the maintenance you did each week to your car, this is a good place to do that. You can print those and put those in a notebook. And you can create any checklist you want. So if you want a checklist on the items you need to do loading the trailer, what needs to go in the trailer each week, you can do that on here. If it's what you need to do when you get to the racetrack each week, you can make that checklist. There's tons of things you can do within the checklists. You can sort it by cars or activity, so it's really user defined there. Anything you want to add to the checklist that I might have missed?
I think you covered it really good. We've got 3 templates up there now that can be downloaded, and I know that we'll be adding more soon.
Yeah, so currently if we go to new template, we have a non-wing sprint car, which I believe will also work for a midget, 600 micro and quarter midget. Those are all weekly maintenance ones that we have on there, and as Kevin said, we'll continue to add. So the next feature is the one that is my personal favorite, and that's tires. So if you click on tires, the first thing that's going to pull up is the tires that you own, and it not only is it the tire, but it's also the wheel that it's mounted on. So you can see here I've got a bunch of quarter midget tires entered. So on the bottom you'll see tires and then pairs. So on the tires, these are all the tires I own. The condition, that will change. It adds a dot each time you use it in a setup. So if I were to add a tire here, well, let me go back. So how I've done mine is I do left rears with the numerical number and right rears with an alpha, a letter. So that way, when I go to pairs, it's going to say 1B or 2C. I've found that best for me, but you can give it whatever code works for you. I just had stickers made that go on my wheels, so it's easy for me to identify those. If I mount a new tire on the wheel, I can just go change the information on that number, and it's worked really well. We're going to have decal sheets on our website for that. But so to add a tire, it's really simple. You're going to go to manufacturer. You can see Hoosier's there because I've already entered it. Once you type a tire manufacturer there, it'll be on the list for you to check. Compound, it's going to have the compounds I've already entered, or you can add a new. Corner, you can give it a corner, and then wheel's going to be your wheel width. Oops. And your backspace. And then the short code is what's going to show up there on the list. So we'll say this is wheel 8. Long code would be if you wanted to give it another name, you could do that there. The date that the tire was new, you could backdate that if you wanted, if it was from last weekend. And then you could enter the tire size right there. And here you can also add the laps that it's ran if it already had some mileage on it before it wasn't a brand new tire. You could note that there. And then comments, you could add comments for like dirt guys if it was grooved or siped. Maybe if this wheel had a little bit of damage and you didn't want to use it except an emergency, you could note that there. And then when I save it, now it's on my list. So the coolest feature of this is if you click on pairs, now it's going to sort all of your stagger combinations. So if I say I want 3 inches of stagger, it's going to tell me every possible combination to get 3 inches of stagger. So you can see 1C, 2B, 3B, and 4D all make 3 inches of stagger. Not only can I see the compound of the tire, I can see the wheel size and the condition of the tire. And if I long hold one of those, it's going to ask if I want to drag that into my most recent setup. And when I drag that into my most recent setup, if I say yes, it's going to not only bring the tire size in, but it's also going to fill in the compound for you and the wheel size and backspace. So it automatically fills a bunch of fields for you there. So this is really, really handy at the racetrack. It's only going to take a little bit of time to input the data before you head to the track, and then when you're at the track trying to find a specific sagger, it's really easy. If you happen to get to the track and you had a tire that's changed size, it's really easy. You just click on that tire, tell it the new size, if I could type tonight, and save it, and now the new size is there. So it's really, really easy as far as that's concerned. Anything you want to add to tires there, Kevin, that I missed?
Two quick things. One, you mentioned that the condition dots fill in each time you have a run. We don't actually have it that way yet. It's still a subjective field where in the tire detail screen, when you add a new tire, or if you click a tire and edit it, then you can mark the condition down of the tire.
Okay.
So like if you were to click on a tire, then you have the 5 dots on the detail screen. You can choose, 1 to 5 on there. But like you said, I really like storing my setups in PitLogic, and that's been a great find. And having my shock sheets at my fingertips has been great. But having the tire pairs has been by far the biggest time saver and advantage we found racing, especially when we're doing multiple cars on a busy night.
Yeah, it's been really handy for me as well when I'm just wanting to make a slight stagger change to not have to do the math or go roll the tires, just to figure out what I have, just to click and see, all right, these are my 4 combinations to get that stagger. So it's been super helpful. So that's kind of how the tires work. And then the last addition is parts. And you can see on my screen, I've only created 2 part types at the moment. Quarter midgets wouldn't have as much running gear that you would need to keep track of as a sprint car, a midget, or a micro would. I have my belts. I run a belt drive instead of a chain, or you could have your chains. And then my engine. And on a sprint car, midget, micro, I would recommend putting anything on there that has a limited life expectancy. Because once you create these parts and you add them to your setups, it's going to really help you keep track of how long it's been since it's been freshened, how many laps are on it, how many events are on it. And it's super simple. You can create as many part types and as many different parts under that type as you choose. It works just like the tires in that function. There's parts on one button on the bottom and then types on the other. Here you can add any type you want. And then over here it's going to list all of your parts. And again, I think if you
you won't add a part from here.
Yeah, you don't add a part from here like tires, but in setups,
right,
you would go to your setup, parts, add a part, select the part type you would want to add, and if I say I'm going to add my number 2 belt, now it's in there in that setup. So my engine I've already had in there, and now I can add my belt and keep track of how many laps or events I have on that particular drive belt. Again, you can keep track of as much or as little as you want. If I was running a sprint car team, I would have my torsion bars in there, steering gear, drive line, U-joint, rear end. Those are all things I would want to have keep track of. What would you like to add to the parts part of it, Kevin?
I think you've covered the parts pretty well. You can also kind of keep a subjective rating of the condition as you go. So when you're choosing parts, it'll help you pick if you kind of pre-looked at them. While you have the setup screen there too, you can show how you can add tires from the list from the setup screen too.
Yeah, I'll go back and show that. I thought of one thing on the part detail. When you're entering a part, obviously the app's coming in midstream. So if you have an idea of how many laps or events are on that particular part, you can add that. So you can simply select And if I can do that right, you can add how many extra laps, number of laps to add there. And so if I want to say there's 50 laps on that engine before I entered it in the app, then you would have that there. And so then what Kevin had mentioned is back at the setup, if I go back to my setup and I go down to the tire size, you'll see there's two little lines there. That's kind of telling you you can pull that in from somewhere else. So if I long touch that, now it's going to bring up my tire card, and if I say those are the tires I have, it's going to say, are you sure you want to add these to your current setup? You say yes, and they've been added to that setup. So again, it adds 8 things for you: wheel width, offset, tire size, and compound for both left rear and right rear.
And you can do that from either the left rear or the right rear tire size field, or from the Stager field on top.
Okay, yep. So several ways you can add that to your setup. So I'll fade you back to my pretty face, and we will jump in and answer any questions that you guys may have. And Kevin can stay on the line here to see if there's anything that, any questions you have for him. So scroll through here. Rick, thanks for joining in. Alex, he is our iRacing World of Outlaws champion. That's a Team CSI driver and putting together a sprint car using our shocks. And he's been using the PitLogic app, so thanks for chiming in. So anybody that's tuned in, if you've got questions about the app, I would be more than happy to dive deeper into any of those new features. Or if you just got setup questions or anything else, we're here to answer and help any way we can.
Mark asked a question on there. He said, is there any way to rename a checklist? And we can do that when you are looking at your list of checklists. After you press that button from the main menu, you can long touch and then rename it right from there, so that you can then name it what you want.
Okay, I'm gonna.
By default, it'll name it the car type, the list type, and then the category. But you can just summarize that to whatever you want if you'd like.
There you go. So I just went to it, long touch it, and you can rename this checklist right there. So super simple. Good question. Mark's been an avid user of PitLogic, quarter midget racer who his daughters race, and he takes care of some other people's cars. I would have loved to have had PitLogic last year when I was taking care of 7 quarter midgets, because it was a lot to keep track of weekly maintenance and what I was doing and checklists, and this would have been really handy. So Rick Remore is asking, what's the best way to keep your phone and iPad synced?
Well, right now, the one area we can do that is with the setups. And you can do that by uploading your setup with the shared code that's private to you, and then download it on your other device. In the future versions, we're going to kind of have team sharing and syncing across multiple devices, but we did not put that into this update because we kind of had to cut the feature list off so that we can kind of get it all done.
Yeah, we wanted you guys to get all these new features and try to get familiar with them and get to use them before some of your seasons shut down. And PitLogic's just going to be an ever-evolving platform. As more people are using it, we have the ability to keep adding more and more functions and features, and we certainly appreciate all your feedback, and that's how we know what needs to come next. So, but yeah, we use the upload share code here at CSI. We have multiple tablets. We actually have iOS and Android, and you can share them that way as well across multiple platforms with that share code. So that's handy if you have 2 different styles of device. Anybody else have any questions for Kevin and I before we sign off and I'm going to go home and watch Monday Night Football, and I don't know what Kevin's going to do, but
I'm going to watch Monday Night Football.
Big win yesterday for the Saints on the road. Teddy Bridgewater, we're squeaking by. We're waiting for Drew to come back. Seahawks had a big win yesterday too, beat the Browns.
Yes, they do a tremendous job of barely beating whoever they play.
And my dad is reliving the glory days of the 80s with the 49ers the way they're playing right now. Although they're doing it with defense, not offense. So, but
I don't know the 49ers. Are they in the CFL?
Yep, they're the team at the top of your division.
True.
Zach, am I doing a shot class in Vegas this year? I'm not doing a shot class in Vegas. We've never done one there in the past, and it's just with everything going on, the race and all that, it's just too hard. I will be in Vegas, and I'll be happy to answer any questions you have and help you any way possible. It just wasn't feasible to try and pull off a shock seminar there with everything we have going on. That's going to be the end of a very long trip for us. We're doing a couple races in Phoenix, and then California, Placerville, Bakersfield, and then Vegas. So it's going to be at the end of a long trip for us. So, but definitely, if you're there, stop by and see us at the factory support trailer. Both Trevor and I will be there. The Hudson Hornet's going to be burning up the junior novice class, and we would love to answer any questions you have and meet you. So if that's it, we're going to jump off here. We certainly appreciate you tuning in. If you get to using PitLogic and have a question with the new features, certainly shoot me a message. We would love to help you any way possible. Again, if you can like and share the video, that would be great. Thank you, Kevin, for tuning in and helping us. And thank you for the awesome app. And hope you have a good evening. All right, guys. Take care. Have a fantastic week, and we will talk to you soon.